and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Make a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Okay, I don't have the agenda, a copy of the agenda in front of me. What's next on the agenda?
Let me just get to that real quick.
Okay, we already did that, so opening remarks are by me? Okay. All right. Welcome to the meeting. Glad to see you could turn out tonight. I want to give you a little bit of a fiscal summary on where we're at as a city. For the 2024 budget, we only had a 2% levy increase in spite of having a 14.4% increase in the sheriff's budget. It was a big hit last year. And our 2% was compared to the county, which I believe is 10.4. 10.4?
It was 10.5, I believe, yeah.
And originally started like 17 or something, and they worked it down. Blaine was 19%, Ham Lake was around 8%, and Oak Grove was around 20 plus. So that's good. We're starting the budgeting process now for 2025. Just as a point of information, about 80% of the city's revenues are from property taxes, just as a point of information. Probably expect increases in property valuations to be more moderate than in recent years. They've been pretty high the past few years, so they'll probably moderate a bit with the higher interest rates. I expect inflation in the cost of goods, materials we buy, parts we buy, etc., supplies, to be, the rate of inflation to be slightly lower than last year in particular. And expect pending residential and commercial developments that are already on the books to generate an increase in building inspection permit revenues and also property taxes once they're finished and on the rolls. A big issue in East Bethel these days is development direction, or direction of development, or the vision that the residents have for the city. And it's a big item for us too. I would really like to do a resident survey, a proper resident survey of the citizens of East Bethel, like by a professional outfit who does that for their living. You know, it's good to ask questions through the East Bethel Bulletin, or have QR codes and stuff like that. That's a start. But I really would like to have a proper survey. I've lived here 28 years and I don't recall ever being asked my input, and it would just be nice to have a broad sense of what the feelings of the residents are about the development direction for the city. But I haven't gotten a whole lot of traction on that one yet. The recent low density and higher density residential developments, thinking specifically of Elevage, which is over on Sand Hill Parkway, and after that will be the Capstone Homes development on the Viking Meadows Golf Course property. It suggests, at least to me, and I think the city council and the staff of the city, that we may want to revisit. It's about time to revisit our comprehensive plan anyway. It's been 6 or 7 years since it was last updated. And adjust some of the goals in terms of the amount of high density, low density, and commercial property in the city, a little bit more toward commercial and industrial. So it's more a place where you can actually work, not just live. And also, commercial properties tend to be a higher valued use of land than just building more homes. They pay twice the property tax rate that residences pay. So that's kind of a sense among the group. So I'd like us to open up the comprehensive plan for having it revisited, and that's why getting the feel of the residents of East Bethel would be useful as the input necessary to work on the comprehensive plan. Again, homegrown jobs, higher valued land uses. Another big picture change in our approach to development is a shift toward a more analytical approach. Up until recently, it basically was, well, does a proposed development conform with the comprehensive plan of the city? And the second thing was to do a traffic impact study, and those are both completely valid. This time with Capstone, we added a third item, and that was to do what for lack of a better term, we call a fiscal impact study. What's the cash flow impact to the city as a result of a proposed development? And it seems to be a useful tool as part of that, just to look at, because the city bears expenses when things are developed, taking care of roads, and et cetera, services, whatnot. And then it also collects revenues through property taxes or fees. So it's just looking at that like it's a kind of a business-like approach to a development. So we got those three tools, and then we look at another thing, and that is, and this is where Matt Look, our new city administrator, his background and experience, both as a business owner and also as someone whose clientele was at the state capitol largely, brings something different to our city than what we have done in the past. And that is to look at leveraging local resources with state resources. And at this time, we have a proposal in the current state bonding for about $10 million, 10 or $11 million, to do sewer and water upgrades that would help service East Bethel and Cedar Creek elementary schools, as well as stage potential commercial industrial development up the Highway 65 corridor. But to leverage local resources with state resources is a smart thing to do, instead of just looking to the residents to come up with the money. And finally, on the development front is, I think it's time that we control our destiny more as a city. And I think getting the survey of the residents, the update of the comprehensive plan, and then being more proactive in pitching the benefits of the city to those who are the decision makers on investments, where plants are located, where businesses are located, where residential developments are located. And to be more proactive about it would be a goal that I think we all share too. That's about it. Anybody want to add anything? Okay, if not, update by elected official. I see State Senator Cal Barr right there. Do you want to say any comments, Cal?
I'm the only one here, right? You need
Could be. Probably, yeah, to get on the record,
See if
yeah.
I could turn this around. I'd like to face my audience.
Sure.
So I'm your state senator. I used to say state representative, but it's senator now. So tons of updates. Don't even really know where you want to start. There's so much moving. I'm sure most people are familiar with the Senator Mitchell situation. No? Yes? Okay. Tuesday next week, there will be an ethics hearing on the charges against Senator Mitchell. That will be live streamed, so you can either go to the Capitol and watch, or you can tune in on the computer. That should be on multiple places. You shouldn't have a problem finding it, Facebook, or just go right to the Revisers, the Senate website, and it should be on there so you can watch what happens. My assumption is since there's a 1-seat majority in the Senate, they will postpone any judgments from the Ethics Committee until after session. And my guess, and this is only a guess, that the actual ruling from the Ethics Committee will wait until after the at least the first judicial ruling comes out, which her next hearing is the 10th of June. They will postpone that to try and move an agenda. Having said move an agenda, The House has been meeting till midnight every night, which they have not waived the rules, so they go home at midnight and come back the next morning and take up whatever they didn't finish the next day and add some more. They've moved some gun bills, safe storage bills, things like that, an enhanced red flag. They've moved a bunch of these things, and the Senate isn't doing anything. We didn't hear a single bill on the floor today. We're coming in tomorrow, and we will actually hear bills tomorrow. The Office of Cannabis Management has a lot of things they need to fix from last year when they rushed that massive bill through. It was not thoroughly vetted. So medical cannabis, how that interacts with recreational cannabis, how the deposits are made since it's still a Schedule I drug with the federal government, how the money is deposited because the federal government can take all deposits from those companies because it's still a Schedule I federally. If you put the money in the bank, it'll be confiscated. So how those deposits are done, the rules on the licensing, who gets a license when and how. What went through the bill last year was a very, I think it was actually called racist because it was discrimination. It was very discriminatory because it said you had to be, more licenses would be issued to people in areas where they had high density of prosecutions for drug-related crimes. So that's where they wanted to put the majority. So now they're going to change that to a lottery system, but that's the Office of Cannabis Management, how those, how you would submit your name and how you would accrue a license in that lottery system. That all has to be developed. They have to put in, give licenses to growers so that the business people have something to sell. There's all these pieces and none of them are figured out yet. So this bill tomorrow is going to address some of those. We've got a bill tomorrow on the legacy, all of the legacy funds, where that money is going to be spent and how it's going to be, who gets what and how to spend it. A lot of it will be given to different art groups and they will decide after we give them the money how they want it spent. The state's going to be buying another 14, if I remember right, it's 1,400 acres of land. Every year they come out and they buy a little more land and a little more land and a little more. Sooner or later there won't be any to buy. So that is going to need to be addressed in the future, like next few years, how the state determines what they're buying for land with the legacy funds. Trying to think, there's another one up tomorrow. We've got 4 on the floor tomorrow that we're going to be hearing, and all of them are rather large, contentious bills. And today was nothing. Yesterday was one. We have not finished our state government omnibus bill. That hasn't come out of committee yet. They haven't even started putting it together. And yet, after tomorrow's session, we will have 8 legislative days for the rest of session. Constitutionally mandated 120 and no more. We have 8 days to work with, and we haven't even started the end of session stuff yet. We haven't had our conference committees. We haven't negotiated with the House for an overall position to send it to either the House floor or the Senate floor. We haven't started negotiations on a bonding bill. None of these things have been done because Senator Mitchell kind of took the wind right out of the Senate. That whole situation has scrambled everything around up there, and different reporters, different things. Bills were put on the calendar and pulled the next day. They've got, with that 1-seat majority, they can't get agreement within their own caucus of what they want to move and what they don't want to move. So basically we're at a standstill. There will be a few things moved, but not a lot. So that's the best I can do for an update right now. What's actually going to happen in the last 8 days is anybody's guess. I don't think our Senate Majority Leader has a clue what's actually going to move or how it's going to move. But I can tell you that I seriously doubt we will get all of our work done within the 8 days we will have left for the next 2 weeks. So if anybody has any specific questions, is that all right to take a couple of
Sure.
questions? Sure. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and ask away. I'll do my best to answer them. Sir?
You want me to identify myself?
Sure.
My name is Brian Bazanski, 22337 Quincy. You being here means that I'm not going to be asking Matt this question.
Okay.
I'm familiar with how the legislature works. If I have any questions, I just
I know Sean, yep.
Yeah. So, and I asked Sean, what's the status of our application on the $10 million grant for the water tower down behind the post office? Is that included in the bonding bill? Does anyone know where that's sitting in the bonding bill?
Well, Cal just said it was stalled because of
Yeah.
what's going on, right?
Which water tower is he talking about? Behind the post office?
This is the one you drafted.
The one I drafted?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in the Senate, the bill was drafted. We haven't started negotiation on the bonding. It was heard in the House. Matt came down and testified. Did Peggy with you and Peggy, right? So it has been heard in the House bill. I have not seen the House bill. I don't know what was included.
So we don't know at this point in time if it's
No.
on the bill or not.
No, and we probably won't know until the last day of session or the next to last day. I will let Matt know when I see what's in and what's out and see what I can do about getting some pieces put in. But since the Senate is very dysfunctional right now, I mean, just point blank, we are very dysfunctional right now.
The entire state government's dysfunctional.
Well, if you think the state's dysfunctional, the Senate is even worse right now. That's kind of driving some of the dysfunction.
Sure.
There was mention of a bonding bill yesterday. The governor and all 4 legislative leaders had breakfast. Yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday morning. They had breakfast. Wednesday morning, and we made an offer to the governor over breakfast on bonding of approximately $500 million. So $500 million total package. The governor's response back was, we want they had an oddball number, it's like $986 million or $968 million, and we'll decide all the projects that go in, and the Republicans get no input. So it's not a bipartisan bill. We'll just decide everything that goes in, which is not really the way that bonding's supposed to work. It's supposed to be what are the needs of the state to borrow money against, right? I mean, we're gonna be paying for these projects for 20 years, so what are the most important projects? And I've always contended that if we're gonna borrow money, it should be for sewer, water, roads, and bridges. The core functions of government. Those are the only things we should borrow for. And everything else, if you want an ice rink, that should be on the citizens of the local community to build an ice rink. If you want a skateboard park, a cultural center, those should be on the communities that request these things, not on the taxpayers of everybody in the state. So, short answer to your question is, nobody has a clue what's in there yet, but as soon as I find out something, I will, Matt and I text whenever we have a question back and forth, and we have a good communication. There's no problem with that. We're quick with each other responding. So, as soon as I find something, I'll get with Matt, and he can make sure you guys know.
It sounds to me as a longtime observer, and I understand why governors are very loath to call special sessions, because then they lose, for those that don't understand, then they lose control of what's happening. It almost looks to me like a special session is gonna have to be called.
I'm not gonna disagree with that. It looks that way, but then the flip side is that if Senator Mitchell resigns or is prosecuted for any reason or pleads out, how do you manage a 33-33 tie in the Senate? So they're going to want to do as much as possible ahead of time, because if anything happens where Mitchell actually loses her seat, or Kelly Morrison, they're gonna ask her to retire at some point because she's running for a congressional seat. At some point, they're gonna ask one of those two to retire, or resign, I should say, not retire, but resign from the state Senate. And at that point, there's a tie in the Senate, and the governor loses. If you thought he lost control in a special, he'll totally lose control at that point. So I know they want to get as much done as they can before the end of session, because like you said, they will lose control, and they will lose more and more control over what they can negotiate away from Republicans. So I know their starting position last year when we did the bonding bill, it was, we negotiated back and forth pretty much all the way through session. I mean, it'd be a hit and miss. We'd negotiate one day, and then it might be 2 weeks again before bonding projects came up. And then we'd make a counter offer and back and forth like that. But nothing serious happened until the last week of session. And that bonding is always the tail end piece. That's always the last piece out of the legislature. So it's not unusual to be starting negotiations now. I think we're a little behind on where we were because usually we agree or get a general agreement on an overall number, and we're not even close on that yet. But then,
Plus, I mean, what are the, you have a rough idea what the total dollar amount is that has been requested?
it's over 4 billion.
Wow.
There's been over $4 billion in requests for bonding put in this year. And if we go at the 500, what's that, like 12.5% or something of requested projects? So,
As I understand it from Matt, not being one of the people who's hip on the process, so I've asked Matt about it. It's good to get in the queue, even if you don't get it, because then when you're the second time or third time, it's kind of like you become more and more worthy of it.
yes,
So it's good to get the process started, but the key thing being to leverage local resources
Right.
with getting back basically some of the taxes that we pay to the state. That's,
I
Correct.
felt, again, having watched things a little bit. Yeah, I thought the chances were very slim the first time you asked.
yeah.
it has to be an over and above kind of project to get it on the first time around. Those are pretty rare, but yes, we got it in. It was heard in the House. I don't know if we've even heard any capital investment bills in the Senate this year. I don't know of anybody who's actually had one heard. We'll probably take the House bill and adjust some projects off of that, because they did hear many, many projects over there, so we can adjust off of theirs. We'll just use their bill and basically just do the negotiation of which, here's our dollar limit, and then they'll split it up, who gets what kind of thing. It's usually like, they try and split like a Metro, outstate, Republican, Democrat, they try and split it up so everybody gets a little piece of bonding or a project that they can say we got something done. They try and benefit the whole state. We'll see what happens in the final negotiations. Because like I said, the first one was, we want $900 plus million, and we want to say what all the projects are. Well, that's an opening bid. That's not what's going to be the final bill.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So you got an interesting 8 days ahead of you.
I have a very interesting 8 days in front of me because I was on the ethics complaint with Senator Mitchell, so I'll be
Well,
front and center in the ethics committee on Tuesday. So we're thinking Tuesday's probably not going to be a floor day for us because there's too many of us, and the president of the Senate is one of the members of the ethics committee. So yeah, it's probably going to be a zero. So that would be one of our off days, one of our 4. Then we'd probably do 4 or 3 that week and try and save some for the last week. But we will run out of days.
yeah.
So, does anybody else have any questions, things I might be able to answer?
Senator, just a quick question. Can you kind of identify how many Republican votes are needed to pass a bonding bill?
41. Well, total of 41, so 33 Republicans, so we need 8. 8 Republicans have to buy off on that, so that's our leverage to make sure at least some of us get some projects in there. And then, just as a sidebar on if anybody wanted to expel Senator Mitchell for any reason, it does take a 2/3 vote of the Senate, so 45 of the 67 of us would have to actually agree with that. And depending on exactly what happens with the court case, that is possible that would happen. There's a lot of angst amongst her own members with what she has put them through this last couple of weeks, so anything is possible at that point.
We all know how fast the court works, and that ain't gonna be in 8 days.
No, that won't be in 8 days, because her next hearing is until 10 June, but depending on exactly what comes out in the court case, I mean, I've heard a lot of rumors, plus, minus, things are retracted, whatnot. It's gonna be, the 10th of June is an omnibus hearing, so it'll be more than one thing done at that hearing, so it would be kind of interesting. It will be very eye-opening to see what happens at that point. I think we'll get a lot more clarity of how things proceed after that, when that hearing is done.
Yeah, and just for clarity, this is Senate File 5309. We do have a request in with with Emmer's office for a earmark for a water tower. That's in the northern portion of the city. But this particular 5309 project is a clean water project. Has a water tower in it, but a treatment facility as well, because it's located in close proximity to the decommissioned landfill. So there's some not so good things found in water there.
Right,
So,
there's a lot of PCA money that's been moving around on that. I know Andover's gotten some a lot of money out of the PCA because they have a closed landfill that's infiltrated a lot of well water down there, so those wells have to be closed. And the city, well, the state is actually paid to truck in 5-gallon jugs of fresh water because you can't drink it, you can't cook with it. They request that you don't use it for bathing. You can, but it's not recommended to use for bathing. So they've got whole communities down there that they need to get on city sewer and water, or city water anyway. And that's the kind of PFA money. And a lot of that is just, you don't complain about that. Those are the kind of projects everybody wants to see done. So Woodbury's got some stuff around 3M and Lake Elmo out there. Andover has some. I think we've got some up here. Anything that's near a closed landfill these days seems to qualify for those. We have problems with the well water, so it needs to be water filtration systems, city water, so that you actually have something clean that you can drink and shower in and different things like that. So those are kind of at the top of the list of what we want done, and I have not seen anybody complain about that.
Thank you for your support on that.
Sure.
Yep.
Anything else?
Thank you, Cal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a sign-up sheet there for folks to sign up on who want to?
I do not believe we have one, no, but
Oh,
I'm not sure if,
okay, well, I'll take people in order they want to come up. We're in the citizen input, general public input portion of it. If you can come up and state your name and address. You do need to be a current resident of East Bethel. I'll invite folks up. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes to present their comments or questions. If there are multiple residents who want to speak to the same topic, they should choose a spokesperson to speak for them. And at its choice, the city council may simply listen to the comments or may engage in dialogue with residents. That's kind of our ground rules. So, and we can thank Mr. Aaron Berg right there, who's our community development director, who sits on the city council of the city of Cambridge, and that's what they use. So we borrowed their rules. Thanks, Aaron. So if anybody wants to come up and ask questions, make comments, please feel free to do so.
It's me again. Kevin, I was disappointed in watching the meeting at the end of March, where you said that if, I'm going to paraphrase it, if you felt like you were getting too much harassment, too much heat, is that a fair paraphrasing of what you said? You were going to cut the microphone off here, you're going to cut the session short.
I had said I would close the meeting, but last fall was my first town hall meeting.
Okay?
I've been at one last spring, but I didn't lead it, you know? And so I don't think I handled it particularly well. Yeah, what we want to do and why we're having the rules of conduct is just to have some level of mutual respect instead of what I perceived as this being a coordinated attack last November's meeting. If I had been experienced as I am now, I would have responded to it along that line at the time, but.
I mean, you could say I attacked you.
Well.
I guess I've always tried to deal with you respectfully, and
Yeah, I didn't sense that. I didn't
you know,
sense it so much in your comments.
in,
There were others who I sensed more of it, but more to the point is I was kind of green to this, and so, cut me a little bit of slack, if you would.
I was going to remind you about the First Amendment to the United States Constitution and how it still applies in East Bethel.
Okay.
I mean, you do know what the First Amendment is, obviously.
I do, yes.
Yeah.
I do.
I didn't think that, I wouldn't have characterized that as a organized group attack. I think that the people that came up there, and I knew a number of the people that spoke, they were just speaking their own opinions. And you had,
Okay.
you had a, you
Well,
had a
we-
tough job
we-
that night.
And I appreciate your comments, and that's why we opened it now. And you and I perceive it differently, probably because we were in different positions in it, you know. I was up here, and you were a member of the audience, but, anyway, so we can perceive things differently, that's fine. Contrary to the common ethos in the world nowadays, we don't all have to agree on everything, you know? It doesn't mean anybody's wrong or anybody's right or anything, we
Oh,
just
I-
have different perceptions of
Yeah.
things, that's all.
I'm surprised when you made the comment earlier that you've lived here for, you said, I think you said 26 years?
In 6 days, it'll be 28 years.
Okay. We have lived here for 46 years. Not that that means anything, but
No,
I
well, it
remember.
means you
I
like
mean,
living here.
I thought the comp plan had to be amended every 10 years is what it was.
Personally, I would advocate every 5. Because of the degree of change occurring in East Bethel in recent years. People going, people coming, you know, it's probably good to take the pulse of the residents every 5 years.
After having
That's
been,
just an a personal opinion. That's-
after having been involved as a council member or a P and Z member
Yep.
or as citizen with, with 3 different comprehensive plans, I mean, that's a lot of work. And frankly, I thought at first that 10 years seemed to be excessive. But I mean, once you actually get a comp plan drawn up, then it seems like it takes 2 years before it gets approved. So
Okay,
it's,
Yeah, we usually take a 1 whole year just to get everything reviewed and opinions from
and
residents.
that's assuming that they don't see changes that they want you to do it, you know, that you're not in violation.
okay,
Just-
well, remember the 3-minute thing?
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
so thank
Thank-
you for your comments.
Thank you for your time.
Eldon Homes, 2773 222nd. I can't believe that this council disrespected the planning and zoning. Planning and zoning is here for a reason. If you don't want to have planning and zoning, get rid of them.
Hmm.
It's very disrespectful to have them go through all the motions and everything to do what they're supposed to do, and then you just do 180. That is ridiculous.
All right, well, thank you for sharing your opinion.
My other thing is, why wasn't the city administrator position posted?
I already addressed this last fall,
Well,
and I've addressed it since. And everything's working fine, contrary apparently to everybody's expectation or their hopes, whatever they wanted. Things are working just fine with Matt as our city administrator. Gets along with the staff get along with him. City is operating efficiently.
so all the other
everything's fine.
commissions, you're not gonna post any vacancies then?
Well, I don't know why you would say that. No, we're gonna post
Well,
for
'cause you
vacancies.
didn't post one here. And that's
That
probably the
isn't-
most
that's not a
important
commission.
position there is in the
That's
city.
not a commission. You said, we're not,
It's
you
an
said,
opening-
you said commission,
It's
so
an opening
yes, we are gonna
vacancy.
post for
I'm not gonna argue with
commission
you.
openers.
I could talk to the wall and get more information.
Well, thanks for your comments. Anybody else? Anybody on the city council or Matt or any of our staff have comments?
Mr. Mayor and Council, I just want to thank our staff that is here this evening. As you know, they come in early in the morning and in these evenings they stay late. So I want to thank them. I know Mike Jazerski is here, Carrie Frost set up, Nick Schmitz is here, Aaron Berg, of course, is mentioned, Nate Ashford. Desiree Stanford's in the back. And Derek Peters, of course, not our staff, but works for us at the Sheriff's Department. Thank you for being here. And it's, as you had mentioned, it's a great staff to work with, great team
Yep.
that's been assembled. And we're getting the work done on a day-to-day basis, and things are looking up. So thank you.
Yeah, very good staff. Anybody else have any comments on the city council? Anybody else in the audience have comments or questions? Okay, if not, thanks for coming.
Oh. Sure.
You wanna-
Sure.
That wasn't intentional. I didn't see you stand up.
Super quick. Drive. I just had a question. Do we have any thoughts about any updating on our website? I know that's been a
Yeah.
topic of conversation the last few years, and I thought of it as Ham Lake had all their garage sales. I'm looking at their website going, wow, nice modern looking website. So just curious if we had any updates on ours.
Yeah, in fact, I just talked to Matt about it the other day. You want to give her the update?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Thanks for the question, Karen.
Yeah, there's been some discussion on updating the website. We are going into obviously an election year this fall, and things are going to be very busy around here. Carrie Frost, who handles a lot of the administrative work here and will be the key person in establishing changes to the website or information that a web person might need, is kind of has her hands full right now and requested maybe we wait till after the elections before we tackle that. So out of respect to her and her sanity, I think we're gonna hold off to the first part of the year and then start to evaluate. There's wonderful website providers that are out there, a lot of different examples, and I think, I've been forwarding the mayor kind of some links of different cities that, what do you think of this one? What do you think of that one? So I think we're kind of in the front side of that, but we will certainly be investing a lot more time at the first of the year here to get that undertaken. So appreciate everyone's patience on that.
Yeah, it is a priority for us too. We agree.
I believe with the service that we use, the Civics Plus, that we do have a free upgrade available.
We do have a free update, and the belief is that it would probably be very similar to what is currently on there, just the way they operate. And I think there's maybe more user-friendly platforms that are out there, and so that's going to be part of this conversation. Maybe is what's out there, what do people like, what might work better for the city of East Bethel than just a Civics Plus, canned type of website, which I don't mean to speak ill of them, but there are other website providers out there that seem to be a little more user-friendly, so.
Yeah, I think some of the dated things on their events and such. I think, Karen, didn't you send me an email on that? Some of the things that were on the city website that were outdated from 2016 or,
Yeah, there's things.
yeah. Okay.
So we're on it.
Okay.
So-
Do we want to have I think I got out of order there. Do you want to have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thanks for coming, folks. Thanks to the staff for staying late. Thank you, Senator Barr.